Hi everyone, welcome to another Girls Who Start Zoom chat. My name is Miriam Alden, president of the Prince of Wales chapter, and I'm so excited to have all of you here today. The Girls Who Start mission is to inspire middle school, high school, and college girls to become entrepreneurs and leaders. With over 40 chapters internationally, we hope that by providing a platform for female leaders like Miriam to share their stories, we can make this a reality. So before we begin, I would like to introduce the newest Girls Who Start chapter presidents. So Bailey and Charlotte from Visitation in Washington, D.C., and Clara and Sydney from Hong Kong. We are so excited to welcome you guys into the Girls Who Start community. If you're interested in starting a chapter or you know someone who may be interested, please feel free to reach out through the Girls Who Start website and Instagram. So first of all, I would just like to thank you all for joining us today. It truly means so much. I am beyond thrilled to be introducing our speaker for today, Miriam Alden, the founder and CEO of Brunette, the label, a clothing brand that focuses on creating comfortable and classic pieces. In addition to this, Miriam has established the Babe List, an online platform that celebrates other female entrepreneurs. Brunette the label has evolved to being sold at over 700 retailers across North America and has collaborated with some of the biggest names in the fashion industry, including Juicy Couture and Nordstrom. Miriam has become a beacon for female empowerment and has redefined what it means to be a successful woman in business. We are so honored to have her joining us today. So I'm going to be asking Miriam some questions and then I'll open it up to the group for a Q&A. And finally, I just wanted to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. So hi, Miriam, how are you doing today?
Miriam. It's very uncommon for me to say hi, Miriam, back to anyone. It's not the most common name. I love it. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm pregnant. I'm like, am I going to cry? This is so sweet. Just your introductory. And also just, I wish I had had something like this when I was in school, and it's really special. So I think that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to be a part of it today. And I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. So keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
We're so excited to have you here. So my first question for you today is, well, I wanted to start at the beginning. So before Brunette the label was a reality, I know that you're an equestrian and that you grew up riding horses.
Yes.
So in addition to this, how has your childhood and upbringing shaped who you are today? And did you always know you wanted to become an entrepreneur? Essentially, was 10-year-old Miriam a boss babe too?
You know, it's really funny. If you had asked me that, I think even 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said, I don't think so. But actually now when I really reflect back on sort of my upbringing, my growth as a person, and just sort of in general, the steps to where I got to where I am today, I think so. And I think it comes with a lot of like moving parts. And when I sort of thought about this question, I was like, you know, what parts of my childhood, but really what parts of sort of my evolution really affected to like who I am today? And honestly, it's every single step. And I went over to my mom's house about, that's what made me think about it about, I think it was like 7 years ago. And she had been going through all of our childhood like things. And she put on the fridge and it said, I drew it. It was a picture of me. I had like pigtails when I might've been like 4 or 5. And it said, when I grow up, I want to be a toy store manager. So I think I really did probably know that this was sort of my journey, but because I thought that I was going to be a competitive equestrian for my whole life, although that is like a form of entrepreneurship, it wasn't really like, I wasn't as business minded or I guess business focused when I was young. But I think when I was at BCIT, I went to business school at BCIT in Vancouver, and I was asked that same question when I was giving a presentation one day, and they asked me what part of my childhood affected me to be able to go to where I am today. And that was just in school. And I had said, for me, it was work ethic. Growing up being a rider, I always had to show up every single day. I think that anybody who has done any sort of sports or any sort of extracurricular anything, so whether it's, I don't know, tennis, piano, it could be like attached to anything that you do outside of school and or in school. I wasn't as attached to school, so for me this was definitely something that I really felt in my riding. But I had to show up every single day, whether I felt sick, whether I was tired, whether I honestly felt like it or not, because I had these living beings that I was responsible for. And I really think a lot of that kind of work ethic. I don't come from a background of family that could really afford for me to ride. So I had to work there to be able to afford for me to do it. And so I think just having to show up every single day, even though it wasn't going to my friends' birthdays or I missed lots of vacations with my family. It was a lot of sacrifice to be able to do what I did. And I think that that really led sort of to being able to sacrifice a lot when I first started my business, because I was, 27 when I first started. And that's kind of a time in your life where you're really social. And I really had to like sacrifice a lot of my social time to be able to start this business. And I think that I would say that that was connected to me growing up as a rider. Then when I got hired in my first job in the fashion industry, my boss asked me the same question. It was funny. It's a question that you do get asked like throughout periods of your life. And when he asked me that, I had been working as a waitress, and I was like, well, sales. I learned how to read the room. I learned how to, connect with people. I learned how to kind of feel. I'm quite intuitive, and I have a lot, like I'm empath. So I feel a lot of energy. And so being a server, first of all, I was really good at sales because of it. And I was able to kind of like learn how to sell something to somebody before they started knew they wanted it. And I learned that as a server. And so what actually I thought when I thought about this question, I think the part that was the most important is every single thing that you do will impact you at a later part of your life. Whether it's the work ethic you learn, whether it is taking whatever job you have incredibly seriously, showing up on time. Even when I worked in the restaurant industry, I never just showed up at 8:59. I always made sure that I was incredibly respectful of my leaders, took every opportunity to learn. And I think that every step along along the way of your life will lead you to exactly the person that you are now. So I think making sure that everything that you do, you put everything 100% into, and you'll feel it later, no matter what.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how you took like sort of different aspects of your life and channeled it into your business. That's really great.
Well, and it's true. It's no matter what you do, it's sort of how you approach what you're doing. It doesn't matter if it's exactly what you want to be doing at the time. It's sort of how you approach it in like a professional way. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are in your life, it will affect how you manage things as you grow.
Yeah, that's great. So I know you've sort of touched on this, but from this and from sort of building off of everything that you have learned from your childhood, how did Brunette the label come about? Like what really inspired the idea and its founding?
Well, it's another funny thing. I was walking down the street of Vancouver probably like 4 years ago, and I walked past a girl in a t-shirt from my high school. It said Royal. I went to Handsworth in North Vancouver. So not everybody on here is from Vancouver, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so in Vancouver, I went to high school here, and I saw a girl wearing a shirt that said Royals Chicks, and it was a t-shirt that my football team, like we were cheerleading for the football team, or not cheerleading, we were just at an event, and my friends and I made these t-shirts, and we realized that we made them, and they continued like 20 years later. And I was like, oh my gosh, so I was making t-shirts when I was in high school. And so I guess maybe that's really when it started. But ultimately, when I first started my business, I always knew I wanted to be, when I was working for somebody else, I always did lots of other things. So when I got hired by this like amazing person who I did styling on the side when I was working for him. I did fashion writing on the side. I had a column, Miriam's Must Haves. I did lots of different things. And I think that for me, that was really the beginning of founding Brunette the label. And it's something I wanted to bring up today because I think it's super important for you guys to understand that just because when you start off in your career or start off in your business or whatever you want to do, you might actually know exactly what you want to do, but it might be different than where you end up. And I think making sure that you open the door and opportunities for lots of different things within the industry that that you want to be in. So I would, I worked for free steaming clothes. That was when back in the day, it was illegal, or we could work for free. Now you can't do it. So don't take internships for free, you guys. But back then we did. So I worked steaming clothes. I did so many different things. And so I think and now as owning Brunette the label, I do so many different things on a day-to-day basis. I learned how to sort of manage how to do that probably at the very beginning of my career, wanting to test out and try new things. I was so passionate. So I think that was really the beginning of when I first started in the industry, was really sort of the first footstep towards what I wanted to do and starting Brunette the label. But I worked for them for 5 years, and I always knew that I kind of, well, after about like year 4, I always knew I wanted to like sort of have a business, and I wasn't exactly sure what that was going to be. And so I hit a kind of plateau of growth, or at least for me, it really felt like a plateau of growth. And I think it was just really the right time for me. And so I started my first business, which is actually Brunette Showroom. I had learned the industry a lot in the fashion industry. I'd understood and learned sales. I grew a brand from nothing to pretty like one of the biggest brands in Western Canada at the time. And so I'd really like gained a lot of experience, but I felt like I just wanted something more. And I don't really have a way to describe it other than anybody who's ever, if you guys want to start a business, you know that feeling. I just knew that there was more that I wanted to do. And at the time, I didn't really know how. I also hadn't saved any money. It was really hard to get financing for anything. So I offered to partner with my current boss, and he didn't want to at the time. It was very sad. We cried. It was like devastating. But what he did do was let me kind of start my business within his business. And that's really where Babe Supporting Babe started, and the foundation of believing that there is room for everybody to succeed. And my boss at the time, he was a 65-year-old man. He didn't need to do that, but he did that to help me grow. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to me to have a business that it really is a platform for other people to grow. And so that, whether that's employees or whether that is, brands that we sell. So anyways, Brunette Showroom started, and I carried a bunch of different brands. It was really hard for me at the beginning. Nobody knew me. So I just went to Las Vegas to a trade show and found brands that I knew would sell in my territory. And then I kind of like grew from there. And then about 5 years in, I got a couple big brands, and one of them was based out of Barcelona. And so I started traveling a lot and realizing with this company that I worked with that really you could build whatever you wanted to. They were this crazy company, that wanted to, they thought it was like fun to party and like do whatever you want and wear whatever you want. And I remember being like, that was so different from my experience up until that point in North America in particular. It was, you start a business, you do it this way. When I went to business school, you wear these clothes, you do all, and I was like, this was the first business that was like, you just do it exactly how you want to do it. And so I kind of grew confidence within that brand. And also it was a very successful brand. So I was able to raise some funds while I built Brunette Showroom to then start Brunette the label. And the reason why I started Brunette the label was because originally we wanted to do it as a marketing event. So we wanted to host media marketing events for Brunette Showroom. And I wanted to be known for who we were instead of just the brands that we represented. So Ryan, who actually still works for me, he's our current art director. He was like, it was just him and I hosted media events for like, local magazines, newspapers, stylists. And we put together these packages and spray painted Brunette is the New Black on these bags full of like gifting. And then I made a sweatshirt that I actually still have that says Brunette is the New Black on it. And I wore it to a trade show, and one of our retailers, Plenty, which is a local Vancouver-based retailer, said I could totally buy that. So I always knew that I wanted to have a brand, but the opportunity happened very organically and naturally. And I feel like that's really something important to mention, that I worked really hard to get to this place. And then the opportunity sort of opened for me to see. And, that isn't always going to be the journey for everybody, but I think keeping open to like opportunities and things that are happening for you is really important. And so anyways, I made 12 sweatshirts. They bought them. I made 24. I used to like buy blank sweatshirts and print on them. And we kind of grew. And then I took those and then we created a collection. I took them to the trade shows that I was already going to and used Brunette Showroom to sort of like support Brunette the label. And then it grew from there. And now, as you said, we sell to over 700 retailers. We have an amazing team. I always mess this up, Megan. You might have to help me, but around 20 people. I have a designer based out of Australia. We have reps through the US. We have an amazing team here at Brunette headquarters in Vancouver. And yeah, we've grown from that to this. I used to sell pashminas. I used to put together these pashminas that I would sell to help pay for my rent. So the business has done like many different things, but now here we are.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. That I totally agree with you with the concept that everything happens with time and in the right time. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I always say, like, people always want things immediately. Like, I've been doing this for 2 years. I feel like I should be further along. And I'm like, to really, really get good at something, it can take a long time, with a lot of failure and a lot of challenges. But I think I believe so much, if you work really, really hard and you have really good intentions and try your hardest, that, the doors will open for you. Obviously that's subject to situational things, but I think that just being open to opportunities, but making sure you're not going to get them without working really hard.
Yeah, that's great. So you sort of touched on this, but one of the biggest challenges young and emerging entrepreneurs face is finding the money and capital to start their own business. And as you said, you used to sell pashmina scarves. So, and it was all with the purpose of fundraising money to start Brunette. So tell us a little bit more about that time and what kept you motivated throughout it. And what is some advice that you can give us on raising capital for any future business projects?
So there's a couple different portions of that question. So I think it's a big problem, the fact that it's so hard to raise money for young entrepreneurs. Even now, as an entrepreneur that's been in this industry for, I guess, 17 years, I still have to fight tooth and nail to try to get any sort of funding. And so for me, I actually didn't build my business this way. And I think that that's something important to notice. So I started Brunette the Label with $5,000 that I had to pay back within 1 year. And I did it. And I think the way that I did it was, like I said, I would buy and sell pashmina. So there was local places that sold scarves for wholesale. And I think I had $50 and I went and bought $50 worth, packaged them and sold them to people. And I would do lots of different things like that to try to like maintain, any sort of cash flow at the beginning of the business, because for at least within my industry, it took about a year to receive any form of income. So it was hard. And I think it is a big challenge, but I also want to make it clear that if you can't just start a business and not have a plan. You always need to have some form of a plan. If that was my plan. I'm a hustler. I know how to sell. I know how to push myself to, if I'm in a tough situation, if I had to go get another job, like a serving job, I would have done that. But I think it's important to remember that you don't have, I don't come from money. I didn't have a big investor and I was able to build this business. And so although you will need a plan, you can do it. It is possible. And I didn't actually I don't have an investor. I built it honestly. There's a couple different ways to build businesses, but for me, mine was slow and steady. So, I bought 12 sweatshirts, sold them, bought 24, sold them, bought 48, sold them. It was a very slow process. So, Brunette the Label is almost 12 years old. Had I received funding, would I have been able to build it faster and in a different way? Probably, but that wasn't my journey. And so try not to compare your situation to other people's situations. If you want to be a company that receives funding, there is grants. There are ways to do it. I just received a female entrepreneurship grant, first one in the entire time, because I never had time to even apply because it was just me at the beginning and I hustled. But I do think there's a huge void in the market for funding for, I think, all entrepreneurs at the beginning. I think I had $5,000, and to even get a credit card, I had to put $2,000 of it into a bank account to get a $2,000 credit card. And it's just, it's really hard at the beginning, and you don't get supported, but save enough that, I'm not saying just start it and don't worry about anything. That isn't the situation. You definitely need some form of a plan. I more want to say that there is a way to do it if you are not able to receive financing or funding. And that's saving money. That's, going really slow and still working your other job. People call them side hustles now, but I did lots of different things while like I said, I did fashion writing. I received payments for that. I did lots of little things so that I was able to grow this business, and it's doable, but it's definitely a big challenge.
Yeah, that's great. That's some really good advice.
Yeah.
So, in 2019 at Vancouver Fashion Week, you debuted your limited edition collection with Juicy Couture. So, how did this partnership come about, and what was it like to work with one of the most iconic names in fashion history?
It's a really funny story how we started collaborating. I'm a big believer in manifestation. That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about too. I write down everything that I want. I really, really believe in it. I don't believe you can write something on a piece of paper and it just happened for you, but I think there's a lot of other things that can be combined. But I think manifestation of what you really want and putting out to the world is super important. And by saying you have to do other things. I was on my way to a trade show in Las Vegas for Brunette the label, and my Ryan, who works for me, who is our art director, made a neon sign that says Babes Born and Babes. It's huge. We have it in our office. We made it because we did an event in LA for Fab Fit Fun. And we wanted to bring it to our booth in Las Vegas. And he couldn't get a hold of the guy that made it for us. And he just said, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to drive to find him. And literally 2 days before that trade show, he hopped in the car, he drove to LA, he found the guy's office. The guy had the sign, put the sign in the car. He drove to Vegas. I flew there. I met him there. We set it up and I said, you know, it would be so amazing to collaborate with Juicy. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. And 2 days later, the company that owns Juicy Couture walked into our booth because he saw that sign. And it's such an incredible story because it combines so many different parts. Who hops in their car on a Friday night, drives to LA to find a neon sign? It's kind of crazy and random, right? But had he not done that, he would have never seen the sign. He loved what Babes Born and Babes said, and he walked into the booth. And so I think it was a part manifestation. I think it was a part luck. I think it was really good timing. But what's really funny is I used to be obsessed with Juicy. Juicy is actually one of the things that made me want to get back into fashion. And when I was at business school, I couldn't afford to get this pink Juicy tracksuit that I really wanted. I ended up getting it, but I didn't buy it for myself. So it never felt the same for me. It was not something that I was able to do on my own. And so when we did the collaboration, I made sure that I put a pink velour Juicy tracksuit into the collection to kind of like full circle the whole experience. And so it was honestly an incredibly special experience. The girl that founded Juicy, I read their book when I was in business school, and yeah, they were one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into fashion. So I don't know, I believe it was a part of my journey. I also think it's a true sign that like if you go above and beyond, you get opportunities that are above and beyond.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, that's so crazy. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was pretty cool when we did our fashion show and we did Jenny from the Block came on, and then Juicy came on, and honestly that will go down in history of one of the people were like, what? Oh my gosh. And you know, for being from Vancouver and most of the people at the show were locals and people that we know, I think it was a really big moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So my next question is, as aspiring entrepreneurs, we really do have influence in shaping the world of business. So what are some things you'd like to see improved about the entrepreneurial world, or rather some attributes you'd like to see young entrepreneurs implement?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I first started, there was no such thing as kind of collaboration over competition. That's something that really has evolved. Definitely our generation, I feel my generation definitely started it. And I think you guys have a lot to do to finish it or to keep it moving. I talk a lot about even kind of being a female entrepreneur, and I don't think I'd be sitting here had it not been for the women before me that fought a pretty major fight for me to never walk into a room feeling like I could not do it because I was a woman. I've never felt that. I know my stepmother, who was before me, she had to fight every day in her business to just be able to do it. So I think making sure that that carries forward. And I think by doing that, you have to like stick together, making sure that there is room for everybody and making sure that you create those opportunities. Like Brunette Showroom for me has now become mostly just a platform for young female, mostly Canadian businesses to show and sell their brands out of my showroom. Because when I first started, people did anything they could to make it so that it was hard for me. Other than my first boss, most people that were my competitors really felt really felt that they wanted to put me down so that I didn't succeed. And then I remember a very firm moment being like, I'm not going to do business like that. And so me like kind of like training my team to make sure that they hold a lot of value on themselves and care a lot about what they do. Build confidence, understanding that being like, you know, a female and being sensitive, if you are, is like a superpower, and it's not a negative thing. I think those are responsibilities of like my generation to sort of like teach the next generation. I think it'll be your responsibility to carry that forward and set up new opportunities for, you know, whatever that is. And I think that you guys will know what it is when you get there, but I think making sure that you like honor where it came from and make sure to continue to push through on the things that are challenging, because the industry is hard. And like, or sorry, being an entrepreneur, my industry is hard, but all industries are hard. And being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's wonderful and amazing, but it's exhausting and it's stressful. And so I think one of the most important things is not letting that get the best of you and making sure that you still want to show up and do positive things. I would say all of that is really important, but just making sure that you keep pushing forward for the generation after you.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's some great advice. And we're excited to implement it. And we're excited to have role models like you, sort of like,
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
So,
also like you guys can do it. It's like, that's the thing is, you know, I feel like when I was starting out, a lot of people were like, oh, you're starting a business. And to a lot of female entrepreneurs, you know, it's like, I have an amazing community, core community of kind of female entrepreneurs within my sort of, I don't know, within my group. And we are all incredibly supportive of each other now. That has definitely changed in the last 10 years, 100%. People aren't so worried about not being able to be successful. So like making sure you guys really use that and help each other.
yeah, that's great. Thank you. So I am now going to open it up to the girls for Q&A. So sadly, we only have around like 10 minutes more of this meeting. I really hope that we would have more time, but my Zoom plan is only 40 minutes.
Oh no. Shoot.
I need to invest in a longer Zoom plan.
I should have done it.
So
I have the
sorry.
business one. I have the one where you can, but that's okay. We'll open it up. I
Okay.
can talk faster.
Yeah, hopefully we can do like a fast, I'm so sorry.
Now that's okay. Yeah, open it up.
So if you guys have any questions, feel free to type your name in the chat and I'll call on you to ask your question. And if you don't feel comfortable talking, just type your question into the chat and I'll read it out loud for you.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm in there already.
Yeah. So Sheila, feel free to ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. A question I have is, have you ever had any moments in your career when you're not really sure whether what you're doing is actually the best, or like maybe you're unsure of whether you're going in the right direction? And if you do, then how were you able to handle that moment?
Well, I have about 5 of those a day minimum. And you basically just know it's a moment. It's just a moment in time. I think making sure whatever business or whatever you decide to move forward with in your career is authentic to you. I think one of the biggest struggles with starting a business is like, what kind of business do I want to start? I feel really grateful that I was able to start something that evolved into like my dream. And I know that that is really lucky. And also it took a while. But I think understanding that it is a journey and you're not going to be at the destination right away. So if you ever have a moment where you're like, am I doing the right thing? You have to really try to understand if it's really authentic to you. If this is really is your dream, you'll know the answer. Sometimes take a step away. Like I give myself what I call like moments of radiance now, where I just like take a step away and go for a walk. I'll do something that's not work related and come back to it. But just understand that no matter who you are and no matter what you're doing, you're always going to second guess yourself, but just like try to really follow your intuition. Female intuition is so powerful. You like try not to listen to your doubts and listen to your intuition.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That really helped.
Good. And don't worry, it's all the time for everybody.
So Carolyn, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to how COVID-19 has impacted your business, if it has, and how has the pandemic um, changed the way your business may, or change the way Brunette may operate in the future? Because I know a lot of businesses have been reevaluating or moving their businesses more online because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, COVID-19 affected everybody's business. I think everybody personally and professionally. I think as an entrepreneur, it was really scary at the beginning because nobody knew what to do. On top of, you didn't know if your business is going to even keep going. Like nobody knew what was going to happen. And so I think the sort of reevaluation about what was like incredibly meaningful to us. One thing I would say that is our biggest strength is we have very firm values. And I think that's something that I haven't brought up yet, which I'm surprised because I usually talk about it a lot, but making sure that you really know the values of the company that you're starting. So like for me, how we make people feel is the most important thing. And so when COVID hit, I was like, how am I going to manage this? I think there was like 3 days where I just was like kind of like stunned when everybody had to shut down. And I remember talking to my dad, and my dad's like, what's your plan? And I don't have a plan. I don't even know what to do. And he was like, well, hope is not a plan. You need a plan. And so I remember going back and being like, what is the most important thing for us? And I was like, customers, how we make people feel. And so I was able to kind of like reevaluate the business at that. There was a lot of things that we were doing that we were just doing because that was what we were doing. So we were on the program of, we'd go to every single trade show and we'd travel like crazy. I was on an airplane every single week. I've been trying to get pregnant for like 5 years, and now I'm pregnant. I wouldn't have got pregnant had I not had a reset. And I think that there is like something in saying that that's really special is like everybody had there was major challenges, of course. I'm also really lucky we sell casual clothing with a really strong, powerful, meaningful message of babes supporting babes. And so had a lot of amazing support when it happened, which I wasn't sure was going to happen. And so I think we were really lucky. But the reevaluation of how you want to do your business. Do we need to travel this much? It's terrible for the environment. It's not healthy to be gone all the time. Sort of also putting a lot of faith into my team and seeing that everybody really cared, I think was really special for me too. Like when you have strong values in your company, the people that work in the company connect to those values. And I really only hire for values and then train. So I had, 15 at the time, people that really wanted this company to work. And so we did reevaluate. I canceled because I knew my customers were struggling. I canceled all their orders. I took on all the responsibility, knowing that if I treated them well, that they would treat me well. The world is very mutual. And so, the reevaluation was mostly how we were doing business, kind of with too much excess of everything, and sort of honing back on how I wanted the company to run, how I wanted to design and create collections, trying to be more sustainable. We have pieces coming out now that are 100% recycled fabric, which we'd never had before. I never had time to stop and be like, is this how I want this business to go? And I think for all the challenges, which were obviously major financial challenges, managing a team where everybody had to work from home, managing the comfort level of all different people based around this global pandemic. Some people were way more comfortable than others to continue to work. So just sort of managing that. And then when it comes to online, we already had a pretty strong online, and just seeing people support us was great, but we are still on a rotating kind of schedule in our office. And that has been more of a challenge than I think for some other businesses, because in fashion, you're very collaborative. You're very we all work together really closely. And so I actually learned that I don't think that we would actually do well working from home. And not every company is that situation. So I think what the global pandemic did was give everybody an opportunity to try new things and reevaluate. And for us, it didn't actually work for people. We still are working part-time from home, and that's fine for a period of time, but my company, it doesn't actually work that well. But anyways, all in all, I think it was just a good time to reevaluate how you do business, and I think really hone back to the values of what you want, and then be able to respond to those challenges with like heart, purpose, value decisions.
Thank you for answering my question. I really appreciate how you evaluated your environmental or carbon footprint. a lot of fashion companies don't do that. But I really appreciate how you have renewable products, and I think that's awesome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we have 5 more minutes left of the meeting. Let's go to one more question and then we'll wrap it up. So Tanmayi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. If you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
So in like the business world, how do you gain connections with other businesses and other people?
Well, it's kind of, you know, they need to be authentic relationships, so they do take some time. When it comes to like starting a business and sort of gaining customers, that's really like truly about kind of cold calling and learning the industry. That's like, you know, are you talking colleagues or customers?
I think both ways, honestly.
Okay, so they're kind of different. So colleagues for me, I worked in the industry before I started my business. So I developed a lot of like very meaningful, deep relationships before I ever started Brunette. So by the time I started it, I had a lot of like very authentic relationships of people that wanted to support me. And I think that that's really the most, whether it's customers or whether it's colleagues, I think making sure that you are developing these relationships from when you first start. So if you want to go into a particular industry, you probably will start by working in that industry. So making sure that you're not just going in there for yourself, you're going in there to develop like mutual two-way relationships and really building them. And whether that is, like I said, customers or colleagues, they need to be authentic relationships. And if you, and honestly, I used to really, I don't do it so much anymore. But when I first started, you'd go out and you network. You know, there is networking events, there's female entrepreneur events, there's lots of great things that you can put your, I did that a lot at the beginning. And then the one thing I can say is, no, you know, whether it's cold calling customers and developing relationships with them, making sure that you genuinely know about them and care about them, and the relationship will become mutual. Did that answer you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we are going, or do you guys want to answer? Do you want to tackle one more question? Do you think we could do that within a couple, in a minute?
I'll speak really quick.
Okay, Blake,
can we
you want to go ahead and ask your question?
After?
I just wanted to say, like, I was so excited when Miriam told me that you were, coming to speak. I have your products. I'm wearing your blonde sweater right now.
Thank you.
I
Cute.
love them. They're so comfortable. And
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, where did you get the inspiration for this line, the blonde, the brunette, the redhead, like line and collection?
So when I first started Brunette the label, Brunette showroom, I named it that because if people couldn't remember my name, because it's not super easy, they would remember I was a tall girl with a dark brown hair. It was never meant to be like a hair color specific thing. And then when I made my first sweatshirt, it was named after my Brunette showroom. And then I did a collaboration with a girlfriend of mine who is blonde, and we did blonde and brunette. And then obviously now we have all the natural hair colors: blonde, brunette, redhead, jet black, and silver. So really developed super organically. But yeah, the original hair color thing came from kind of when I first started the business. I didn't want people to, I wanted them to be like, oh, brunette, it's the brunette. And so they would know where to go or remember where to go. And that's really how it evolved. And then obviously we continued designing, and then Babes Sporting Babes became a big portion, and we have our own definition of a babe from a physical word to what kind of person you are. So like the brand really evolved more into kind of like uplifting, but we'll always have the hair colors because it's the original.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for supporting us.
Okay, thank you. Everyone, please join me in thanking Miriam for sharing her journey with us today. It was such an honor to have you. And I just want to say, I wish we had more time, and I wish I had that 1 hour plan.
Next time we can do it again.
Yes.
Can everyone can we do a photo? Do you guys do that?
Of course, of course.
Okay. Whoever wants to be in the photo, we take your cameras off, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Cute. Okay, ready? Oh, should I wait? Are we gonna run out of minutes? 1, 2, 3. Cute. Thank you. Well, thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate it. I hope it was helpful and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. And I hope
Remember
you
to
can
do whatever
stay
you
in touch.
can to learn. Whatever you can to learn.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you so
Mir-
much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. That was amazing.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.